you need to change your circle of friends. It might sound harsh, but it really is the truth said in love. If you want to upgrade your life, you need to change the people that you associate with on a regular basis. Now, how can I say something like that? What do I base that wisdom on, or that authority? Well, there's two things that stand out to me. The first thing I base this off of is a statistic. It's a really interesting study that was highlighted by a woman named Ruby Payne in a book called A Framework for Understanding Poverty. In her book, she does an extensive deconstruction of generational poverty. And one of the things she found was that something like 90% of people who live in poverty, their best friend lives in the same government housing, the same building that they lived in. And of that 90%, something like 50% of the people, their very best friend lived on the same floor. Now you have to keep in mind, whenever you hear statistics, that something like 90% of statistics are made up on the spot. So in this case, I actually fall under that silly reference. I don't remember the exact statistic, but it was mind-boggling to me. What struck me about her research was how we as people take the path of least resistance. We do what is easy nearly all the time. People pick a friend that was closest to them as their best friend to associate with, but they pick that person on the same floor. Now, how is it that this happens? Are people being intentional about these friends, or do we just gravitate to people that are very much like us and that we feel comfortable with, that has a similar lifestyle and similar circumstances in their life? And the truth is, that is what we do. We take the path of least resistance, and we generally are attracted to people that are just like us, or as close to us as can possibly be. We feel comfortable in those cases. We aren't challenged. It's not uncomfortable to be around them. So keep that statistic in mind. Even though I may have embellished it slightly or I played with it, you get the gist. The second is a statistic or some research that was done, and I can't tell you exactly who did it, but it's always stuck with me. Your financial income could generally be marked as an average of your 3 closest friends. Now, think about that for a few minutes. What if your physical fitness is a representation or an average of your 3 closest friends? What if your weight, or the degree you are overweight, is an average of your 3 closest friends? What about your mental health? Is your mental health more or less an average of your 3 closest friends? I would dare say that it very likely is, unless you are living very intentionally and very different than the average person. Most people will find when they do a life audit that they are truly an average of the people they surround themselves with on a regular basis. Now, I don't want to be harsh in the sense, if you want to increase your financial income, you need to go out and be very selective and pick people based on their finances. I'm not saying that. If you have a choice in determining any relationship, choose character all the way, every time. But if you have established character and you are looking to work on other areas, perhaps to increase your financial resources, then it is imperative to get around people that are living that way. There's some ancient wisdom written in the book of Proverbs by King Solomon. He said, "Walk with the wise and you will be wise." Who you associate with is going to determine the course of your life. When I was 26 years old, I began pursuing entrepreneurship. I really wanted to increase my financial acumen, and I began looking for ways to grow and change in that area. I was looking for people that had breakthrough and had increased their financial acumen, financial wealth, and knew more about that world than I did. And I started taking seminars and workshops and ended up connecting with a group of people that had a great influence on my life. And it was where I really made my first millionaire friends. They made an incredible mark on my life. One of the things they did was give me an iPod downloaded with 86 days worth of audio education. We're talking incredible number of books, podcasts, and live seminars and workshops that had been recorded. This ran the gamut from leadership, personal development, sales, marketing, business, and entrepreneurship to spiritual stuff. With that gift, I began to listen to this iPod. At the time, I had jumped into my first business. For the next year and a half, I had the chance, something like 4 hours a day, at least 5 days a week, I was playing this information, listening to many of these things over. I spent the next 2 solid years listening to this education. This audio education changed my life. I learned, even though I couldn't run around with that circle of friends very easily, they were in a different city. I had access to a group of people live that affected my life. But it was listening to these influential people that changed my life. And I began hearing their stories, listening to their words, replaying how they saw the world, how they thought, how they changed their thinking. Totally changed my life. And it was in that I began to walk with the wise, and I began to talk with the wise. I listened to these conversations. I walked with these conversations. I might not have did a lot of talking, but when you're learning, you don't need to do a lot of talking. You do a lot of listening. And I listened, and it changed my life. And so you might not have an iPod downloaded with 86 days of information, but you have access to YouTube channels like this and many others. You have access to podcasts, so much content and information for free. The key is you need to find people that are wise, people that are doing what you want to do, and then you need to run with them. You need to walk with them for a long while so that you can begin to think like they think, talk like they talk, and act like they act, and you will see your life transformed.